Namaskar. Today it's May 10th, 2026, and we are celebrating Mother's Day in this part of the world. So, happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers around the world. Welcome to day 58. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge a thoughtful comment from a viewer from Greece on yesterday's video on day 57 of the 100 Satvik Yogi Path. That is yesterday when we were discussing Yoga Sūtra 2.6, asmitā, ego identity. They mentioned Plato's cave allegory and asked me to explore it and to consider whether it is similar or greater than nirvana. I want to say this respectfully and clearly. Plato's cave and nirvana are definitely not competing ideas. They arise from different cultures, different eras, and different questions. But both point toward awakening with misperception. Awakening with misperception. In Plato's cave, in Plato's cave, the prisoner mistakes shadow as clarity. In in Yoga Sūtra 2.6 that we were discussing, learning, and practicing yesterday, asmitā is the affliction. Asmitā is the second kleśa, is a confusion, is the misinterpretation of the seer with the instruments of seeing. And both describe a journey from illusion to clarity. I honor the depth of Greek philosophy and I honor the depth of yogic philosophy. Each tradition offers a doorways. The goal is not to compare which is greater, whether Plato's cave allegory or asmitā, Yoga Sūtra 2.6, but to understand how each points toward freedom from misseeing. Misseeing. I would like to thank you, our viewer yesterday from Greece. Thank you for your comment and also giving me an opportunity to explore Plato's cave allegory if in relation to our yesterday's Yoga Sūtra 2.6 and also for bringing this reflection into our space. And since we are speaking about different traditions and different doorways to clarity, this is the right moment to share what Satvik Yogi Path is. Each year on March 14 begins my journey, 100-day journey, in returning to the essence of yoga in celebration of International Day of Yoga on June 21st. This year, I chose to revisit Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sūtra and share my daily practices inspired by it. The Satvik Yogi Path is a gentle, classical, navel-centered approach to yoga. It is rooted in Patanjali's Yoga Sūtra and grounded in the 8-limb system of Ashtanga Yoga. 8-limb system, Ashtanga Yoga. It's not the modern posture-based system, but the original philosophical path of clarity, steadiness, and inner freedom. It is simple, it is clean, it's steady, it is open to all backgrounds, all cultures, and all belief systems. And there is no ritual, no performance, no aesthetic pressure, no cultural gatekeeping. The Satvik Yogi Path is about awareness, about returning to the center, about seeing clearly, and about living lightly. It is a path where the breath becomes the teacher and the mind becomes a mirror, and the practice becomes a quiet return to the self. This is the path I walk. This is the path I teach and share. And this is the path we are exploring together for 100 days. Yoga Sūtra 2.7, the seventh Yoga Sutra from chapter 2, Samadhi Pad. Sukhanushayi Rāga. This is the Yoga Sutra 2.7. Sukhanushayi Rāga. Rag is attachment rooted in the memory of pleasure. Once again, let's recite it. Sukhanushayi Rāga. Rag, or the attachment that is rooted in the memory of pleasure. Yesterday in day 57 we explored asmitā, the second kleśa, the confusion of the seer with the mind, the confusion of the seer with the mind. Today Maharishi Patanjali defines, let me just quickly, thank you. Today Maharishi Patanjali defines Rāga, the third kleśa. Rag is often translated as attachment. But Maharishi Patanjali gives a very precise definition of Rag, the third kleśa. Attachment is the cling that forms. Attachment is the cling that forms when the mind remembers pleasure and wants it again. The mind remembers pleasure and wants it again and again and again. So, attachment is the cling that forms when the mind remembers pleasure and wants it again. It is not desire, it is the residue of desire. Let's recite the Yoga Sutra 2.6 once again. Sukhanushayi, Sukhanushayi Rāga. And let us break it down word by word with the meaning. Sukh. Sukh is pleasure. Anushayi is the lying dormant, carried as residue. That is sukh. Sukh anushayi. And rag is the attachment. Rag is the attachment that rests on the memory of pleasure. Rag, rag forms in three steps. One, a pleasant experience occurs. Has it happened to you? We are discussing the third kleśa, rag, attachment, which is rooted in the memory of pleasure. The mind remembers the experience and then wants it again and again and again, sometimes leading to addiction. So, how does attachment forms? It forms in three steps. One, a pleasant experience occurs. Two, the mind remembers it. And third, the memory becomes a pull, a cling. So the pleasant experience occurs, the mind remembers it, and the memory becomes a pull, the cling. So the object is not the problem. Object is not the problem. The cling is the problem. Object is not the problem. I recently visited a very beautiful Himalayan region of India, northern part of India. And in particular, I went to a place to try a food which is only can be had in its most authentic form if you are present and you have it locally. And I had the experience, and it was, for me, it felt out of this world. Well, my visit was over, my vacation was over, and I came back. And this happened in early to mid November. And I'm back. It is May the 10th. And till date, that memory is as fresh as if I was right there when I was right there. And every time I remember that experience, I just want to have it again. And sometimes to feed my the pleasure I received, that I just sometimes want to close my eyes and imagine that whole experience all over again. So a pleasant experience occurs. That's the first thing that would happen. Then the mind remembers it. And the memory becomes a pull, a cling. So the object, the food, that local, authentic flavor is not the problem. It is the cling that is the problem. But I'd like to call it a very sweet, pleasant problem. So rag, but it's still a problem. The cling is the problem because my mind remembers the experience and now it wants to have more, more, and more, and more. And I want to be honest with you. I tried looking up in this part of the world for for that particular whatever food item or dish or flavor. A lot of my time goes in researching if I can find that in New York City or anywhere. So It is the experience. It's the pleasant experience I had, and my mind remembers it. And then the memory is now a cling. So the object is not the problem. The cling is the problem. Rag, attachment, creates expectation, dependency, disappointment, restlessness, craving. Have you experienced any of it? When rag, the attachment, softens, the mind becomes free of experience without clinging. Because at this point of time, I just want, I'm expecting that I would have it. And I have kind of, I would say, that I am sort of dependent on the cling. So I'm focusing on the attachment. And sometimes, honestly, I'm not receiving it. So disappointment I do see, because I just want to remain in that state of remembering that experience. And then restlessness, craving. So when rag, the cling, the attachment softens, the mind becomes free of experience, free to experience without the cling. Hence, object is not the problem. It is the cling. It is the memory of the experience that becomes a pull is the problem. This is a very beautiful analogy I can share with you. The fingerprint of pleasure. Pleasure leaves a fingerprint on the mind. Rag, attachment or the cling, is the moment the mind keeps returning to that fingerprint. Pleasure leaves a fingerprint on the mind, and rag, attachment, is the moment the mind keeps returning to that fingerprint, hoping to feel the same again, again, and again. So, rag, attachment, is not about the object. I wish I knew this when, as a parent, I was struggling to have my kid take off from the mobile device all the time, and all the yelling and the screaming that would go on, and leave it, you have to stop this, that, and all. So, this is so beautiful. It is the cling. So, the mobile device is not the phone, the mobile device or the video game is not the problem. It is the experience of pleasure and the memory that mind remembers to get it more again and again and again. So it is the cling to the memory of experience of pleasure. So rag is not, attachment is not about the object. It is about the memory of the object. The mind is not attached to the thing. If it is the mobile device, it is not that my kid is attached to the mobile device. But I was, as a parent, I always at that time looked at that the mind is attached to the mobile device, but it is attached to the feeling, the thing once produced. It's the feeling the mind is now attached to, clinging to. And this is why rag, attachment, is subtle and persistent, because it is the feeling that the mind is attached to. Hence, rag, or the clinging or the attachment, is subtle. It's subtle. It's subtle and persistent. When I release the cling, when I release the attachment, the experience becomes light again. So, what are we practicing today? How to release the cling, how to release the attachment, the cling that is rooted in the memory of experience. So we notice one small attachment. I just remembered my attachment to the food locally available in that place, region, the Himalayan region I visited last year in November, and it is almost what, 6 months? Yeah, around this time, exactly 6 months. And it is still staying. So, all this while, I have spent more than enough time because I wanted more. I want it again. I want to experience that pleasure that I had. My craving, it is increasing, but it is not the food that I have the problem. It's not the object that that the problem is. It is the feeling that I'm clinging to, I'm attached to. So we notice one small attachment. That's one. Then we observe the memory behind it. Just observe, not judge. It's not like I will notice that one moment of attachment. Okay. Just notice and then observe the memory behind it. Just observe. Observe that it was morning, I got out of the hostel, and then I just had done all my research. I'm just observing research where I could find it. And I'm not judging that, oh, I went there, I did this, I no, nothing. I could have done this, no, nothing. I'm just observing the memory behind it. And then I would practice to let the breath just soften it. Just soften it with the breath. And I would just bring my focus back to my navel, which is center. And then I would practice jap with the primordial sound. In the process of loosening the grip, the cling, and then bhavna on freedom, contemplation, contemplating on freedom, not attached to the cling anymore, but just freedom of the experience. So let us begin with our first stillness practice. Sit and settle. And to do that, Back and spine straight. And you place one hand gently over your navel. Let me just move a little bit over your navel. Gently. And now you would let the breath fall into the navel. So here we practice 4 steps in settling our breath. So the first step is back and spine straight, and roll your shoulder if you have to open up your chest, and looking straight ahead at a point at the eye level, and at the eye level and what we always practice is with a smile. Your smile, and now hand gently over your navel. And the first step in settling our breath is you observe your breath. Just observe. Just observe your breath as you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Only observing, just observation. Now that you have observed your breath, now you would breathe again with awareness. Awareness that you are present right here, right now. You have one hand placed gently over your navel, and you are smiling, and you're breathing. And as you breathe in, your hand, it's like the balloon, it goes, comes, rises, and then with exhalation goes back again and again. So the second step is we breathe with awareness. Let's do it. 3 breath cycle. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. The last, breathe in, breathe out, and open your eyes. So you observed your breath without judging, just observed your breath. And then you were breathing with awareness, right here, right now, breathing with awareness. Next, we equalize our breath. And then the fourth step, that we increase the exhalation. So the number of counts of inhalation, we will make sure that our exhalation slows down and is more than the number of counts of inhalation. I don't know what's happening. It's Mother's Day. I'm sure my kids and my family is up to something special. I do not know. I'll find out after the session. So let us get back to equalizing our breath, which is the first breathing technique. We count in inhalation and we equalize our breath in exhalation. So the third step, equalizing our breath in our diaphragmatic breathing with awareness. Breathe in, two, breathe out, two, breathe in, two, breathe out, two, and the last, breathe in, two, breathe out, two, and open your eyes. Now comes the best part of breathing, and that is increasing your exhalation more than the inhalation count. So we do this by counting inhalation and then doubling the count of exhalation in a breath cycle. So we take three breath cycle. Only that here now we will double the count of exhalation because our goal is that we exhale fully and more and slow and lengthen our exhalation from the inhalation count in one breath cycle. So we take 3 breath cycle. I'll count to 2. So my exhalation is 4 counts. I'm doubling the exhalation. Let's begin. Remember, back and spine straight, chin slightly tucked in, and most importantly, your smile. Your smile. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And the last, breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And just stay like that. And open your eyes. In sitting and settling our breath, we learn quite a few things. One, observe our breath without judgment. Two, with awareness. Now we are breathing with awareness. So we are developing our awareness of our presence in the present moment. Then we use the breath technique of equalizing our breath. In the diaphragmatic breathing, equalizing our breath. And the last step, fourth step in settling our breath is we are increasing or lengthening the exhalation from the inhalation in a breath cycle. Now you would notice one attachment, just like how I did. The attachment could be a comfort, a reaction, a desire, or a preference. You would notice one attachment. That attachment could be a reaction, a desire, a comfort, or a preference. And then, once you have noticed, you would ask gently, what memory of pleasure is behind this? Ask yourself. So once you have noticed one attachment, you would ask yourself, what memory of pleasure is behind this? Then let the breath soften the cling. And how you do that, we just did in our practices. That the cling, when you think, and then you just bring your focus back to your navel. So you're not using any force, you're not using any resistance. You're just bringing all your focus back to your breath that rises and falls softly on the navel. So let us practice jap with 3 Om, and it is totally optional, but we have practiced in the past that Om is the that rises from the belly. That moves through the chest. The vibration that softens at the lips. So let's do it 3 times, placing one hand gently over your navel. And now let's practice. Take a deep breath in. We do it in 3. Take a deep breath in. Uh, Take a deep breath in. Uh, and the last, take a deep breath in. Uh, and open your eyes. And now, contemplating on freedom. Bhavna, I release the cling. I release the attachment on the feeling. I release the cling. That completes our stillness practice for day 58. So I have a day 58 challenge for you. You would notice one moment today where the mind reaches for a familiar pleasure. So you would notice one moment today where the mind reaches for a familiar pleasure and soften the reach. So you would notice one moment, then you would Again, observe where the mind reaches for a familiar pleasure or the memory or the feeling, and then you would soften the reach, the cling. That's the challenge. Day 58 teaches us that attachment is not about the object, it is about the memory of pleasure. So, when the attachment softens, the mind becomes free. When the attachment softens, the mind becomes free. Thank you for practicing today and showing up every day. Your steadiness is the real journey. We meet again tomorrow. Until then, stay warm, stay open, and most importantly, stay honest to your own story.